How long is this gonna take?
For him, as long as he needs. For us, 5 seconds. Ready, Cap? All right, we'll meet you back here, okay?
Ever since Marvel concluded the Infinity Saga, they've been focused on introducing a ton of new characters to the MCU. Now, as we embrace this multiverse saga, they've also been reintroducing characters we already know and love. Patrick Stewart's Professor X, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. We know John Bernthal's Punisher is coming back, and Hugh Jackman is returning as Wolverine. But today, let's talk about how Marvel is going to reintroduce Chris Evans back into the MCU. So there is a huge rumor going around right now. And remember, keep in mind that it's a rumor and things change. But there's a huge rumor going around that Marvel is planning to reintroduce Chris Evans to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a Nomad Disney Plus series that is set to be a multiversal story about how Steve returned the Infinity Stones to their proper timelines. Now, this isn't just some crazy rumor because there's actually a lot of concrete evidence supporting this. Now, when I say that Chris Evans is returning to the MCU, that doesn't necessarily mean that Captain America is returning to the MCU and we're gonna see Captain America leading the pack. No, because Marvel has made it very clear that Sam Wilson is Captain America. He's here to stay. He just became Captain America. He's gearing up for his first Captain America solo movie. So Marvel has made it very clear that Sam Wilson is Captain America. So if Chris Evans were to come back, he would be his alternate alias, Nomad. Now, the Steve Rogers we already know and love kind of already went down a subtle Nomad arc in Avengers Infinity War, donning a costume that didn't resemble those red, white, and blue American colors. But of course, in Avengers Endgame, Steve got his shield back and he was Captain America once again. But now, with a Nomad project specifically being branded as a Nomad project, this could really be Marvel's way of allowing Steve to really go down that journey and have him get the, a comic accurate Nomad costume that we've seen in the comics before, adapting that to the big screen and really distinguishing Steve from the Captain America mantle because that's Sam's now. I love the idea of us getting a project specifically dedicated to it being a multiversal story of Steve going back to return the Infinity Stones to their proper timelines. That is one of the biggest storylines we've always wanted to see within the MCU because it was one of those stories that we know a lot went down, a lot happened, we just never got to see it. And back when we got Avengers Endgame, we didn't really have the context we have now on what's happening with the multiverse, where everything is heading, the events of the entire Loki series, because if you guys remember, the events of Loki begin towards the beginning of Avengers Endgame, and then the events of the entire Loki series kind of take place outside of time, outside of the sacred timeline where the TVA and all of that stuff lives. So that is outside of time itself. So by the time Steve goes to return the Infinity Stones to their proper timelines, the multiverse could have already been created. Sylvie could have already killed He Who Remains, thus creating the multiverse and releasing all of those crazy Kang variants. And now that we know all of this, what if in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, when Kang references the one with the hammer?
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
It's Thor.
What if he's actually talking about Steve instead of Thor? Because if you guys remember, the last thing Steve left with before he went to go back to return the stones was the case with the Infinity Stones and Thor's hammer. So what if the multiverse was already created when Steve went to go return the stones and Kang ran into one of his alternate variants and they had a battle of their own? Now guys, another big part of this Nomad rumor is that Marvel is looking to also bring back Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in this project. Now I truly don't know how I feel about this because Black Widow did make the ultimate sacrifice in Avengers Endgame and I don't want the power of that moment to be undone. But at the same time, it also makes sense. We know the lore behind the Soul Stone itself is, it kind of sounds like a trade-off. It's a soul for the Soul Stone.
In order to take the stone, you must lose that which you love. A soul for a soul.
Well, if Steve goes back to return the Soul Stone, if the trade-off goes as is, then the soul that was sacrificed for the stone should also be returned. Look, all I know is that the dynamic between Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff, the chemistry between Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson, was one of the best parts of Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is regarded as one of the best MCU movies. So if we can get another project where it can be Steve and Nat bouncing off each other, doing their thing, Sign me up for that. Now look, this all sounds awesome, but what is the concrete evidence backing this rumor? Well, we have two pieces of massive evidence. One, if you guys remember the day of San Diego Comic-Con where Marvel made all of their announcements, announced a ton of upcoming projects, including the next two big Avengers films, Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars, before their presentation went down, it actually got revealed online that Marvel submitted a ton of trademarks for their upcoming projects. And we saw a lot of these projects announced. Captain America New World Order, Avengers the Kang Dynasty, Avengers Secret Wars were amongst a few of the trademarks that were submitted, but there were a couple of other trademarks for projects that weren't announced, and one of them was Nomad. So if Marvel officially submitted a trademark for a Nomad project, that means that there has to be something there. Now the second piece of massive evidence takes us back to January 2021, where Deadline reported that Chris Evans was in talks to reprise his role as Steve Rogers in an upcoming MCU project. Now, up to this point, we have not heard whatsoever what this project is. You know, Marvel hasn't revealed at D23 or at Comic-Con if Chris Evans is going to come back in any of the upcoming projects, but we know that he was in talks with Marvel to reprise his role as Steve Rogers in an upcoming Marvel project, and now this kind of just got buried over time because this was reported by Deadline, one of the biggest trades out there. This is legit. This isn't some rumor. Deadline is, they report facts. So Chris Evans was in talks with Marvel to reprise his role as Steve Rogers, but we haven't heard anything about this since. So it's just gotten buried over time. But now, as we look forward with us getting these rumors about a Nomad project, and we know Marvel submitted the trademark for that, this could have always been the plan between Chris Evans and Marvel Studios. For him to take a couple of years off to go do other movies, work with other people, work with other studios, and then when the time is right, for him to come back home to Marvel Studios and reprise his role as Steve Rogers. And guys, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars are right around the corner. If we really look at all of the new characters that Marvel has introduced, this is truly only the beginning for them. You know, when we see the Avengers assemble in Avengers the Kang Dynasty, that is most likely going to be the first time the new Avengers assemble. I also don't think we've even gotten a chance to love all of these new characters that Marvel has introduced, because when it came to the Infinity Saga, before everything hit the fan with Infinity War and Endgame, we already grew to love Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor, all in their own separate trilogies, and then we also grew to love the Avengers as a team in Avengers 1 and Avengers 2. And that was our journey with them. It was a 10-year journey across multiple projects before we got to the Infinity War and Endgame. And we haven't gotten that same chance with the new Avengers, which is why we all think that Secret Wars is going to be a big fest of just a ton of legacy characters coming back, characters that we already know and love, and that is what is going to emotionally compel us to that movie more than anything else. So with this being the multiverse saga, and if Marvel wants Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars to have a sense of finality to them, then I assume they're going to bring back a ton of characters and have those actors reprise those roles. A ton of, you know, the Hugh Jackmans of the world, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Robert Downey Jr. I guarantee you Robert Downey Jr. will come back and play a Tony Stark variant in Secret Wars. I think Marvel's going to bring back a ton of these legacy characters, and we're going to see them interact. We're going to see them have that one final hoorah playing all of these characters in a way that they were never able to do so back then. And that is going to be that sense of finality for the multiverse saga, for Kang Dynasty, for Secret Wars. Because if we really look at all of the new characters that Marvel has been focusing on lately, all of the new characters they've introduced, all of the new characters that are going to make up the new Avengers, this is truly only the beginning for them. And who knows, maybe Chris Evans is coming back as Steve Rogers to reprise his role beyond the multiverse saga, because I don't know, maybe Chris Evans wants to interact with the MCU Fantastic Four, with the MCU X-Men. We don't know what the big plan is, but if he is coming back to the MCU, then it's gonna be hype regardless. I also think it would be really interesting if we were to get this Nomad project of Steve going back to return the stones and maybe possibly interacting with Kang. What if Steve is the one to gather the troops and warn everyone about Kang coming to take over everything? As of right now, we all think that figure is going to be Loki, because Loki has been such an important central figure to this whole multiverse story. You know, another candidate was Scott Lang, but at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it doesn't really seem like Scott Lang is gonna go try to warn the other Avengers. He just kind of thinks Kang is defeated. But we know that's not the case. We know Kang is coming. So what if Steve Rogers in this Nomad project interacts with Kang, and then he comes to warn everyone and rally the troops, rally the new Avengers, and we're basically set the troops and get them ready for Avengers the Kang Dynasty. Let me know what you guys think about everything we talked about in today's video. Are you guys excited to see Chris Evans return to the MCU? Do you think it should happen in the first place? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell notification on my channel for future videos. Thank you guys for watching this video. I love you guys 3000, and I'll see you guys next time.